Hi guys. In this video I'm going to show a few things that's helped me um, do my electronics a bit better. And the first thing I'm going to show you is how to prepare your tip. I watched a video one day and I never used to do this before. And I used to always have problems with shit building up on the tip, always having to clean it. Every time I do one solder, I'd have to clean it. And I saw somebody doing this, and it actually really works. Like, I'll dip the tip in paste, and you wrap your solder around it. Just try to get it all around. This might seem like a bit of a waste of solder, but trust me, in the long run, this will help. It'll help keep your tips clean. They will last longer. Just go all the way to the tip. Because after all, this is a tip for soldering iron tips. Right? I see some of you guys laughing, but it's true. There, you have it all the way up to the top. Maybe add a little bit more paste. Not much, because it's going to make quite a bit of smoke here. So make sure you're in a good ventilated place. Actually, I don't know if you guys can hear a little bit of noise, but I got a little fan here blowing. There, now just turn your soldering iron on, and that'll melt right into the tip. Just give it a second here to heat up. I don't have the greatest soldering iron, but it works. There it goes. You guys can see that it's melting in, starting to melt. And there, it's all coated with solder. I just turned the iron off. And that helps protect your tip. One component that I have problems making good contact on my breadboards is pots. Like these things, every time I put them in, I go do a circuit. Like they don't make a good connection, and I have to keep coming back and either hold it down or try to get it to stay while I'm doing something else, and then I go do something else. Even if I just touch it a little bit with a wire or whatever, it loses connection. So what I do sometimes, not sometimes, I actually do it. I have some already made. Is I found this wire here. We used to call it mechanics wire. at the dollar store. Sorry, let me get this out of the way. And this is 22 gauge wire. I know they'll have it at Canadian Tire and other stores, but they'll probably not probably. I know Canadian Tire will have this for $10 a roll and everything. But I found this one at the dollar store, Dollarama actually. It cost me $5, 100 feet, and this fits perfectly into the breadboard. I mean, just great contact. But what I'll do is I'll solder some of this wire onto here. My eyes aren't that great anymore. There you have it. You can cut it to whatever length you want. Cut it to a reasonable. Just try to make them even. And you got a perfect connection now. It works perfect, especially if you have like older boards that have been used a lot. This works perfect. Another thing that I have sometimes a problem with, I've had a couple of circuits that I've been trying to make, is the ICs. The IC sometimes messes up, and I'm thinking that it's something to do with the resistor switching in and out. And sometimes I'll have to come over to the IC and kind of press it down a bit more. I have an older board around here somewhere that I use sometimes, and I have problems with that board. So what I did is I get one of these sockets, and I extend them with the same wire. Okay, so I went ahead and soldered all the wires on. Now we're gonna go ahead and trim them a bit, but don't trim them to the proper length yet. Leave a little bit more than what you need, because we're gonna do something else with this. I have these pieces of popsicle sticks here, and I'm gonna put it in between the pins, just like so. Squeeze at least one or two pins in so it can hold it. And I'm going to try to line this up. I don't have proper lighting in here, that's the problem. I'm going to put it on the breadboard here. Line up the pins. I have this epoxy that I grab from also the dollar store. Yeah, I shop a lot at the dollar store. It's cheap. Why not, right? and I'm gonna mix it a little bit. It's 5-minute epoxy. It works good for things like this. I noticed though that I used it once last year, and in extreme heat outside in the sun, it does soften up. So it's not good for a lot of things, but for this kind of stuff, it's all right. It dries in about 10-15 minutes, like to the touch. There we go. And now we'll apply it. What we'll do is we'll go around and apply it. All the way around. Hope you guys can see that. But you know what I'm doing here, right? This is to keep the pins straight, and this way you don't have to screw with it every time you want to try to put it in the breadboard. The pins will be already lined up. There you go. You give it a nice coating like that around. Now I'm going to let that dry a bit. And there you go. You have a nice connection. Goes in perfect into your breadboard with your chip. I actually made a few of these. I made a couple for the 16 pin one. I got a few of them made just in case I need to use two of the same kind ICs on here. It comes in handy, gives me a great connection. Anyway, I thought that would be a good tip. I know it's time consuming to do this, but for me in the long run, it saves me a lot of time because, when I first started, and I'm still a beginner, but when I really first started, these things used to give me a headache. Like a pain in the ass when you don't have a good connection, and then you try to figure out, like, you think the circuit is wrong. Anyway, let's move on. Another component that I'll add those 22 gauge wire to solder onto is these 1/4 inch resistors. They don't fit properly in breadboards. Like maybe the newer types, but every once in a while I also have a problem with them. They're just flimsy. This one actually is sticking good here, but sometimes I do have a problem with them. I'm not making good contact. I'll have to come back and just wiggle it around and that. So what I do is every once in a while I'll solder that wire to them, and then I'll mark them. Like this one is a 47K. This one is a 510 ohm, and I keep these around to do circuits on breadboards, and then when I want to solder the circuit together, I'll just use the other ones that don't have the pins. It's useful. It helps. Like sometimes if you don't have a good connection, it drives you nuts wondering why your circuit doesn't work, right? Sometimes, and I end up with quite a bit of them, is I'll make my own breadboard wires. I use these wires. I use these wires a lot. But sometimes when you have a circuit that takes a lot of these wires, it's not only that it's a mess. Who cares about the mess, right? You're just testing out a circuit to see if it works. The thing is, sometimes you have those wires all over the place and you want to insert a resistor somewhere or whatever. Like all the wires are in the way, you have to move them out of the way and that. So what I'll do every once in a while, I'll make my own wires. So you'll have this. Let's say you want to go from pin 4 to pin 8 and just kind of measure it roughly to where you want it. And then what I'll do is I'll insert a shrink tube in here. So I'll cut a little bit of this off. Shove the shrink tube in there. Then you make it bend. Go from here to here. Make your other bend. And there you go. You have your breadboard wire. And it's out of the way. If you want to put a component in there, capacitor, resistor, or whatever, you don't have all those wires in the way. Cool? Cool. The last thing I want to show you guys in this video is how to calculate a resistor value for the LED you want to use. And so let's say you want to use a red LED and you want to supply it with 12 volts. The red LED needs in between 1.8 volts to 2.3 volts to operate. It also needs 20 megaamps. So if you want to supply the LED with 12 volts, you got to deduct the 2 volts that the LED needs from the 12 volts that you're going to supply. That leaves you with 10 volts. So what you do is you go 10 volts divided by 20 megaamps, which is 0.02 amps. That gives you a value of 500. That's the resistor you need. So sometimes when you order packages of resistors, they'll come in 500, 250s, or thousands. So in your package, you might not end up getting a 500. If you don't get a 500, you will get a 510. 510 is perfect to use also. So that's how simple it is. Let's say you want to supply the same LED with 5 volts. Well, you need to take away the 2 volts that the LED needs from the 5, so you end up with 3 volts. So 3 volts divided by the 0.02 amps, that'll give you a value of 150. So that's the resistor you need, 150 ohm resistor to operate that LED off of 5 volts. Is that simple or what? You guys use your phone, your calculator, or you don't have either one of those, use a pen and a piece of paper. You don't have any of that. If you don't have that, I can't help you. Anyway, if you guys got any room in your subscribers folders to subscribe, please do. You'll be helping me out a lot. Thank you, and I will talk to you on the next one. Cheers.